everyone. Welcome back to ROS Goss. I'm Mandy Dwight, host of ROS Goss podcast. Also the founder of Dwight & Company, a sales and marketing strategy agency specifically for automation and robotics companies. So for our 15th episode of ROS Goss, I'm joined by two industry colleagues that, no pressure, but they're on podcasts together all the time. And they have some opinions that are the same, but most of them are very different. So I'm joined today by Allen and Guy Courtin, industry colleagues. Both have been in the robotics space. They've been in supply chain. They know manufacturing. So we thought we'd get together and film something today that's called Shots Fired. It's pretty appropriate. Yep, exactly. We have our hats at the end of the table. We are live in Boston. We did want to film in Lexington and Concord. It turns out that we had some torrential rain, so a little bit of a gamble. So here we're in the conference room at our office. But it's appropriate because it's 250 years of the U.S. We've done a lot of talking about Shots Fired this July, and now it's Shots Fired, the Robotics and Automation Edition. So fun. Thank you guys very much for being here today. The traffic was horrendous, so I appreciate you coming in. But you guys know me, so I'm going to turn it over to you guys for introductions. So
go for it.
All right, thank you, everybody. My name is Guy Courtin. I'm the Vice President of Industry and Global Alliances at Texas. We are a Canadian-based WMS vendor. But I've been in supply chain for over 30 years with, as Mandy mentioned, for robotics companies, but also for other supply chain execution and planning companies. So looking forward to our conversation. Pete?
Mandy, thanks for having us here today. My name is Pete Allen. I have been in the robotic automation space for about 7 years. Started running a business unit at Berkshire Grey, helped with partnerships, went into the fun world of humanoid robotics at Agility Robotics, running their partnership program. Currently, I am a managing partner at my own consulting company, and I support Jacoby Robotics, Vecnica Robotics, and Breckham Group on all go-to-market strategy and execution. So thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and the reason I thought this would be a fun conversation is you guys always have such bold opinions.
Us?
Yeah, I know. Very shy. So coming in today, what is the boldest opinion that you guys have right now before we kind of get into everything?
All right, here's mine. In the next couple of years, we are going to have some issues with Chinese robotic vendors.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
So if anybody has read the news recently, it just came out that Pete just mentioned you bought a new car, but one of the rival companies, right, Polestar, has been now banned from selling EVs in the United States.
Really?
Yes, that means there's 32 U.S. auto dealers that have been geared up for Polestar. It's a subsidiary of Volvo, but it is owned by a company called Geely out of China. And it's being banned because of apparent risks around things like the navigation system, the cameras, etc. So the Chinese EV company will now be withdrawing from the United States market. It will be continuing in Europe. So my big bold statement, and I've been saying this for a while, and we've seen this in other Chinese companies, right? TikTok is still under threat of being banned in the US. A massive electronics company, Huawei, which is dominant in the globe, is not allowed to have any US presence. So my big bold prediction, and we're seeing a lot of Chinese robotic vendors obviously doing very well here in the North American market. My prediction is in the next couple of years, something to look at is that will there be repercussion or blowback on now the Chinese robotic vendors? Because when I read this about Polestar, well, you think about robotics, they're in your warehouse.
Yeah.
They know the orders. They know what you're picking. They know what your warehouse looks like. They've got cameras. They've got physical AI, which I know we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Right? They are now being tied into a server that, yeah, we can say it's in the US, but really where's that patch coming from? So my big bold prediction is look for this in the next few years, that I think some of the Chinese robotic vendors need to be very careful, or at least the customers of those need to be careful of does the US government start looking at these robotic vendors as the same way they look at a Huawei or a Polestar.
It's interesting that you say that, because there was one integrator that said to me years ago that they choose their components. They do a lot with food and beverage, and they choose their components based on where.
Government, yeah.
That comes true. That's interesting how it impacts Geek and High and Quicktron, those kind of AMRs, right? And then you think about the humanoid world that I came out of, that there's a ton of Chinese companies that are doing that. And I keep telling people that I don't think the North American market is going to let them in.
Yep.
Right? I think there's going to be a battle there, but we'll talk more about humanoids later.
Yeah, what's your bold prediction?
You know, I don't know how bold it is, but I think if you look around warehouses today, probably the number one item that is still almost all manual is some level of case handling.
Yeah.
Right? It's a very manual process, whether it's picking, palletizing, depalletizing. I think we're going to see newer technologies come into the market that address problems that are very difficult to solve. And I think we're going to see price points come down as solutions become smaller and they have less infrastructure. Right? There's some companies that are already working on this. Some of the bigger integrators are thinking about how do you do this. And so I think we'll see different technologies in that area. Jacoby changing the game on case, on unsequenced mixed case palletizing, right? It's been the holy grail in the industry. People have been trying to solve it for years. The impact is if you don't have to sequence, you can shrink the ASRS, right? You can change your design, right? And make it smaller, less impactful on the infrastructure and put the chaos at the end of line. Or other solutions like Vecna robotics with a entry level, low cost, no infrastructure change, locust style type solution, I think is going to change how companies think about automation, right? And it'll let those who are worried about risk and that big change get into it easier at much lower costs.
Yeah. Oh, that is interesting. Yeah. I mean, space is everything.
Sure.
These facilities, right?
Yep.
And ASRS solves that, but those are still big.
ASRS solves it, but you've got to at least short-term find space to put the ASRS. It's still a problem, right? And you still got to have your flow of your building going. But if I look at that Vecna solution, I don't have to change the infrastructure, right? I can just put bots and a software layer in to do the orchestration of people and bots, and I'm low cost, no infrastructure change, and I'm now into automation. And there's a lot, if 90% of the warehouses are still manually picking cases to a pallet, because they're terrified of the cost and the infrastructure problems of automation. It's an easy way to jump into it for them.
Yeah, agree. So when we decided to have this podcast, I think it was at Modex in Atlanta.
Yeah.
We were kind of chatting, and I think you guys were going back and forth about humanoids, which you did when you walked in this room today. So, just kind of to talk to you a little bit about that. So, where are they right now? What's going on with that industry? Are they going away soon? I know you have bold opinions about this, both of you.
So I'll kick this one off since I kind of spent a little bit of my career in this space. One, I find it wildly impressive on one hand and scary on the other hand about the valuations these companies are getting with no revenue. Like they're not producing real revenue in any way, shape, or form. They are losing money left and right. Their spend rate is crazy, but yet figures getting, a 35 billion valuation. Humanoid AI just got a 1.3 billion valuation yesterday or something like that and raised money. So the staggering amount of money they've raised is insane, but to the marketing side of them, kudos, like great job, right? The reality is, these robots are not ready for prime time today. Like there are very few that have put into a warehouse or into a manufacturing setting. Like I would call it on the planet less than 50, right? But if you hear the hype, you'd think there's hundreds and thousands of these.
My family does, based on what they hear.
Right. It's just not true, right? It just hasn't happened. The agility has more out there than probably anybody, but all of these companies are doing proof of concepts. I think you were at the Robotics Summit with me, and you had Pros from Agility.
Yep.
You had one of the leading engineers from Boston Dynamics, who are two companies I would say are honest about where they're at and what it's going to take to get there. They both said 3 to 5 years, and that we're going to have to spend the time 3 to 5 years deploying these to get real world data.
Yeah.
What they're missing in the physical AI world is real world data to train their models.
Yes.
And there's no such thing as humanoid robotic data on the internet. Like AI engines like ChatGPT, they work great because they consume the internet and they learn, right? Can't do that for a humanoid. They have to learn how to move their actuators, pick things up, put them down, and they're single-threaded. They're trained to do one thing at a time, and there's proof of concepts. And there's a whole other reasons why it's not ready, but it's 3 to 5 years before we get there.
Should we believe 3 to 5 years?
I mean, my point of view is the humanoids we see today in 3 to 5 years will look very different themselves physically, right? So I think that's that's my opinion, right? Because I've always stated this, and Pete and I have had this discussion, and I even think your former employer would argue if you look at the way you built the humanoid, the knees were inverted.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So therefore,
Digit, right?
Digit had, right, because of
Bird legs.
right. Because the reality is that I look at it this way, like the humanoid built like a human is not optimized for anything. Because we as humans, right, the human form factor is amazing. We do a lot of things. We can run a marathon, we can scale Taipei 101 without any ropes, all this great stuff, but we're not optimized, right? Michael Phelps can swim really well, but you put him in the ocean against a shark, he ain't gonna win that race.
What an image.
Right?
Right.
You put Usain Bolt out there in front
Jaws.
Yeah. With a cheetah, he ain't gonna win that race. So we're not optimized. So why are we therefore trying to build a robot that's like us, that's sort of, I read this article, it's like a Swiss Army knife. So it could do a lot of good things, but it doesn't really do everything really well. Whereas the robot, the whole reason for a robot is I'm going to work on 1 or 2 use cases and I'm going to optimize the heck out of it. I'm going to make sure, for example, if I'm moving a 2-ton pallet, that robot's going to move the 2-ton pallet. You and I can move that 2 tons. It's going to be hard.
Right.
And we don't want to do it all the time. But a robot just built for that, it's going to move it. So to me, will humanoids be around in 3 to 5 years, more ubiquitous? Maybe. But I would argue the way it's built today will look very different. Whether it's on a different base, right? Not too late. Whether it's, why does it have to have 2 arms?
Right.
Can it have 3 or 4?
Right.
Why does it have to have a hand? Couldn't it have different types of grippers?
Why does it have to be mobile?
Why is it immobile?
Could be-
Why does it have to have a head that looks like our head? Can it just be a screen? Like, do we need that? So I would argue that a humanoid style will probably be around, more ubiquitous, but it's not going to look like a human. It's going to take parts of the human, but then optimize for other parts. That's just my belief, because I just think, again, part of it I think is it's right now it's an science experiment. It's like, well, we want to make it look like us humans. Right, I was just an example too, right? When we first started, humans tried to fly, we built models off of birds. They failed miserably. You go and jump off buildings trying to fly and die. All of a sudden, these 2 brothers figured out, wait, it's about lift. So let's build a wing with thrust, and that's gonna let us fly. Planes today don't look anything like the birds in my backyard, but we fly all over the world. So I would argue the same thing about humanoids. So 2 or 3 years, sure. The same form factor we see today, no.
So talking about 2 to 3 years, like when does it start making financial sense? They might be deployed, but like AMRs, like it took a while for those to really catch up with making sense for the balance sheet. What about humanoids?
The biggest thing that needs to happen is the BOM cost has to come down significantly. I saw about a year ago a single part breakdown of an Optimus robot from Tesla, and it was like $125,000 just for the BOM, right? So now you got to add margin on that and software on that, right? But I would say today, I think the market's probably between that 80 to 125,000. And realistically, we know the industry. People are buying robotics at less than 3-year ROI, right? And if you're not replacing enough FTEs, and if that robot is still single-threaded in terms of a use case, it's never going to pan out, right? So what are they doing now? They're losing money on every proof of concept they do, right? Because their BOM costs are too high, because they have too many people in their buildings, but they need to get that real world data. So from a CFO perspective, this comes back to this 3 to 5 years. Is the BOM cost going to get low enough? Like, is it going to reach the mark of what Elon and Brett from Figure say of 25 to 30,000? Not in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Because they need significant scale, right? So to me, that's a huge problem for them, for all the companies in the industry. And there's a new humanoid every day.
Oh,
I swear to God.
I know.
It's crazy.
Several this week even, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
But I think part of that too, Pete, I think part of that new humanoid, back to what you said earlier, it's about capturing the marketing buzz.
Yes.
Right? All of a sudden it's, our mother and father, oh, the humanoid is coming to get us because so-and-so just rolled one out. That's a science experiment. It looks cool. It can do a backflip. It can dance. It can run a marathon. Is it scalable? Does it make sense? Is the CFO going to buy it? No. But for that sugar rush, for that company, they get it.
Yeah.
right? And I think part of it is, hey, we work on this. Maybe the humanoid isn't what we end up selling, but the things we learn from it, we can then parse into, I don't know, a sortation robot that has 3 arms that's fixed at the end of the assembly line, and it looks better than what we have today because we learned that. I don't know.
Well, you see this trend though, right, in robotics. Go back to AMRs. How long did it take AMRs to scale? You were in the early days of AMRs, right? They started very similar to humanoids, like hypey, right? Slow to scale or slow to deploy, got a few deployments here and there. And then all of a sudden, it's been about, what, 10 years? And now they're starting to scale, right? They're scaling now. So I think humanoids will be on a similar curve, and they'll come nowhere near the hype of Brett Alcock saying, I'm going to sell 100,000 robots in 4 years. No chance in hell.
Yeah. Not at that price point.
Right. Well, not that price, but I also think, again, it's you go back to talk about Elon. I think he makes those bold statements, and all the finance bros are like, oh, they fall over each other, and then they hear about the next humanoid company. They're like, oh, these guys are going to be the big one. It's the new Tesla or Apple. Let's invest in it. But you and I both know, like, no, it doesn't. The math doesn't work, and in the environment you try to put them in, it doesn't work.
Here's where I would slightly disagree. I think when they become multifunctional, right, and when the safety regulations are in place and they can come out of cages, because they don't talk about they're in cages today, but they are, or they should be, because there's no regulations. When that happens and they can move around a building and they can go from manipulating totes to handling cases to handling eaches, now they become super interesting.
Agreed.
Right? And that's when it becomes like that, and that becomes complementary to AMR, complementary to ASRS, and now you've got a solution, but that's a big leap from where we are today.
That's a huge, like, to have the humanoid, to me, like what we saw, there was a 60 Minutes piece, right, about the humanoid in the Hyundai plant doing sortation.
At BD.
And it was like, oh my goodness. And it's like, you look at it and you're like, and you listen to the BD guy talk about it, and he's just like, if you knew how long it took to train it to do that, you'd realize that's just literally sorting like a windshield, where the labor looks at it as, I'll learn that in 10 minutes.
Right.
But now you're asking it, okay, you're going to sort in the morning, and then in the afternoon, go pick eaches of shampoo for his orders.
Right.
To me, that leap is not inconsequential. That is, that crossing the chasm, that chasm's massive. That's a massive chasm.
Might be.
And I also think the other chasm to cross on that is a change management. So now you've got FT in your warehouse, and now you're saying, hey, Pete, don't worry, the robot's not taking your job. Next thing you know, you see the robot next to you training to pick that bottle of shampoo. And as much as your boss tells you it's not here to take your job, you're like, well, I'm not stupid. I mean, and I think there's going to be that chasm to cross too, which is people are going to say, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, if you want to make it do the dirty jobs that I don't want to do, fine. But now you're making it do picking, which is what I do. So I think you've got the technical chasm, you've got the personal, human element, change management chasm, which I think are pretty big. And I don't see that in the next 3 or 5 years. Maybe I'm too pessimistic. The whole notion of the Jetsons having robots amongst us.
Well, that was supposed to be years past.
Well, yeah, that was supposed to be like in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And
We don't have flying cars yet?
they do in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, tell me about that parking situation.
Yeah, it would be a lot better if we had them here.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
But I'm wondering, because I saw this selling AMRs. Like, you go into some warehouses, and the AMRs, they were just like, hey, it's just your cart, but it's doing it for you. And we already got whoa, you're taking my job. Like, no.
Yeah.
See that cart you push at Sevi? I'm just going to make it mechanical now. And even that, people were like,
Although I think now in today's environment versus 8-10 years ago when you started with AMRs, you have definitely labor problems where people don't want the heavy lifting, monotonous job. The turnover there is 2,000%, right? So there is a natural place where they're going to start, right? They're going to say, my turnover's too high, stick that humanoid there because it can pick up a heavy thing and move it, right? That's what it's designed to do. And then my insurance costs go down and all those other things. And then the CFO might smile a little bit.
Yeah.
a little bit.
Well, the workers' comp and stuff like
exactly.
like a lot of those things.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm going to put another heavy word on the middle of the table.
Oh,
here.
fun.
Physical AI. Or is it keywords? I'm not sure. Okay, so
So it's not just AI anymore, We have a whole,
physical AI.
we have another
Exactly,
word
we're
on
making
top
John
of it.
Physical.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So, you're hearing it everywhere.
All the time now.
Is it a rebrand? Was it always there? Is it really a thing? I don't know. You tell me.
All right, I'm going to take this one first. I think it's a pure rebrand
Okay.
in a lot of ways. Now, is there some element of actual AI being integrated into the physical machine? Absolutely. I'm not denying that. And I don't want to get this whole discussion of AI and, blah, blah, blah. It's been around since 1956 and et cetera. But when I think about like physical AI, and some of, here we're here in Massachusetts, some of our local robotics companies, they're just pushing, oh, it's physical AI, it's physical AI. I'm like, we've always had intelligence and software built into the robot itself, right? We've always had to have that because even simple things like LiDAR and 3D cameras. So the robot knows what's going down the aisle. If it recognizes an object, it steers around it. I could argue that is some form of AI because it's going to learn and it comes back down that aisle and it's going to look for that object. If it's not there, it's going to say it's not there. I can go this path. If it is still there, I'm going to go around. And it's going to learn from that. It's going to tell its friends, hey, in aisle 7, someone put a pallet in the middle, so just be careful. So we've already had that since the beginning of these AMRs. I feel like now, because there's so much hype around AI, that we're all trying to find, when I say all of us in the industry are trying to find a way to wrap it into something that I could then say, this is why you're investing in AI. This is why you're investing in my company, because I'm doing physical AI. And I also think part of it is because we're all lemmings. So I feel as if some of the robotics companies who aren't saying this, someone's going to say, well, wait, what's your AI strategy? You don't have an AI strategy? You're not doing physical AI? No, we're not going to talk to you. I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, not related to physical AI, but I was meeting with a customer outside the United States. And at the end of the meeting, they literally said, well, what's your AI strategy? And I was like, wrong question. What problem are we trying to solve? Are we going to leverage AI as a tool to solve that problem? Maybe, maybe not. Might not be the right tool. So I feel like a lot of it right now, it is a marketing hype. It is how do we keep up with the Joneses? How do we show that we're advanced in all this? But I would argue today, the robotic systems, Pete, you and I have been working with for a long time, there's always been some level of intelligence baked into the physical robot that you could rebrand it as physical AI.
Yeah, I think the challenge is most of us don't know what the definition of that word is, right?
I think that's true.
Because there's a lot of marketing hype around it. Although when I think about it, I kind of boil it down to a simple definition, right? There's always been this concept of AI and everybody used it for marketing. Now it's the new one is physical AI, particularly in robotics. I even see companies comparing it, equating physical AI to humanoids as if it were the same thing. And it's like, no, it's not. But here's where I think it breaks down though too, and specifically in robotics. I hear you on the point about robotics has some intelligence. I would also argue a lot of robotics companies don't really have AI. They have software that runs their robot. It's not learning anything. It's been trained to do a thing, but they will call it AI, and now they're calling it physical AI because of investment strategy or marketing buzz. But there are some companies that truly have an intelligence AI-based approach. Like I'll use Jacoby as a good example, right? They have a physical AI approach in that their software actually improves, the throughput actually improves the more it learns the SKUs, the more it learns the environment. And if you change the SKUs, it'll actually have to go back and relearn, hey, this is new. To me, if I would put a definition of physical AI, it's can the software, does it have an AI capability to actually learn how to do its job better over time? And I would say to you that if we really dug into some robotics companies, probably most don't have it, and some of the newer ones that are using newer tools probably do have it.
But then isn't that an argument that the complexity of the use case of robotics handling is more of an air quotes physical AI? As you said, what does that really mean?
Right.
As opposed to just, all right, I'm machine learning. I know this aisle from 4 to 6:30 gets clogged because these orders come through, so I'll avoid it. Right?
Or is the robot doing that, or is there an optimization layer in the software doing that?
But is the optimization layer then being translated at the robot level, right? Is the robot, that's the good question. But
right.
Isn't part of the beauty of physical AI is that at the software level, we're going to learn from all the robots. That's the whole thing of AI, right?
Right.
Hey, Robot X is learning, to your point, like Jacoby, Robot X is building this palette this way and learning that these SKUs are actually off. So I'm going to tell all my other little robot friends about this SKU so that
we optimize the palette,
optimize the palette.
Exactly.
So now is that back at the software layer, back in the cloud, wherever, or is that the robot layer? That,
Probably several combinations of all, right?
combination of all. So then does that mean it is doing physical AI, or it's doing AI that's being then translated into the physical actions of the robot?
Yeah.
Is there?
Those are all good points. I think my simple point is that I think there are some robotics companies that their systems don't get better. They
I
don't
agree.
learn,
Yeah, I agree.
but they're probably using the words physical AI, right? And I think if I'm a user out there and I'm looking to buy something, I'm going to hear physical AI from everyone.
Absolutely.
Who's really shown that they can take throughput from 400 UPH to 500 UPH after it was installed, right? I think that's, to me, an example of physical AI being manifest into a result that a customer is going to be happy with.
So reality is, I think we agree on this, like, it's all marketing BS, but there is a layer that's actually leveraging the tool to do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
And it's up to the buyer to really ask those hard questions to figure out, hey, are you just throwing this crap around because it's the cool thing to say? Or do you actually have an AI engine somewhere that's, as you said, truly learning and adapting once it's put in? And I think that's the hard question, because no offense to salespeople, but I guarantee you 99% of the salespeople are just like, well, of course we have physical AI.
Yeah.
Oh, I would say, yeah.
I think the end user should be asking, when you put that system in, what was the SOW for throughput that you had to hit? And then 6 months later, where were you at? That'll tell you if you have some form of physical AI that the system learned how to get better.
That's a great question. I mean, speaking of working with end users, if you have an end user that, and it is noisy, right? They're hearing physical AI, they're humanoid, blah, blah, blah. They're hearing all these things. If somebody comes to you and says, I want to do robots, as they do,
Yeah.
where do you tell them to start? Like, where do you guide somebody like that?
Oh, what's even funnier, right? Not only do they ask about where do I start with robots,
Yeah.
they always start with, I have this unlimited budget. I want to automate everything. I want lights out, right?
Let me write down the name of that
That's
person.
my friend. That's the one that the lights out part.
Right. They start there, and then they get the price tag of that, and then
I'm like, yeah, our budget's not that big.
One robot.
they throw up in their mouth a little bit. They're like, no, right?
What do you mean I can't do lights out?
For $50 million, I can't get lights
why
out?
not?
Come on. I think it depends on the end and who they are, right? Like if I were consulting them, right, I would look at what have you done in automation to date? Let's say you're a company, you've got 10 DCs, right?
Yeah.
And you've automated nothing, right? There's a reason you've automated nothing. You're risk averse, right? Or your buildings are so constrained you can't do anything, right? From an infrastructure standpoint, that's not gonna throw off your production, right? So in those cases, I would say to them, let's find entry-level solutions, right? That are going to complement, are going to impact areas that you're struggling with, right? So I go back to the pain point of labor, right? We all know that's where it starts, but where are the highest turnovers happening? Is it in case picking? Is it in palletizing? Is it in eaches? Probably not in eaches is my guess, because it's so easy to do, right? But I'd find those places and say, let's start with a solution that's not going to impact infrastructure, because that client is that risk-averse one, right?
Yes.
And it's going to be low cost, it's entry level. I think Locus, I think the case handling, aisle case picking from Vecna, those are great solutions that are no infrastructure impacts, low cost, have strong ROIs in most cases, and that's simple. Now they're into automation.
Yeah.
Now 5 years go by, and now the question is, how do I get more out of my building, right? Now I might start to think about ASRS and things like that. But again, it goes back to who they are and what's their profile. Now, if they're another customer who's already done a greenfield with ASRS and they're fully automated, now I'm thinking, how can I optimize that more? What other complementary technologies might fit that building that's not done already today, right? So those are some ideas.
No, I agree 100% on that one.
Shots fired. It didn't work.
Fired, No, but I think what Pete said, I think the one part that you said, I think is oftentimes overlooked, is what is your appetite for change? What's your appetite for change management?
That's well said.
Are you risk averse? Because I think too often to your point, oh, we want robots. Okay, let's take the money aside. Then you start talking to them and you're like, oh, by the way, yeah, you want to put an ASRS in there? Well, you have to shut that down, pull all the SKUs out, put the ASRS in, then pull the SKUs back in. Meanwhile, that section is closed. Like, you can't use it. Oh, you want to put in a goods to person. All right, I got to sequester this area. And I got to do all this stuff. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, by the way, your labor now is going to be interacting with robots zipping around. Yeah, they'll be fine. Are you sure about that? You know, because now all of a sudden they look at this little cute robot and they're like, it's trying to take my job. Now, you could tell them all you want. It's not. But in the back of their minds, they're
You're
like,
always thinking it.
it's that change management. And I think that's the part that too often we gloss over.
Although I will say, though, that in a lot of cases, though, when you put the robots in, you find out that your turnover stops.
I agree, but
Right.
it's getting
So
past that hurdle.
they're afraid of it. Then they start working with it, and they're like,
This is
"Oh,
great.
this is awesome!
Right.
I don't have to pick stuff up all the time anymore, and I don't have to walk
And my
10
back
miles a
doesn't hurt
day.
and all this.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to keep this job."
I agree, but it's like, how do you cross the chasm? How
Yeah.
do you get over that?
Yeah.
And I think to your point, Pete, I think it's a lot of it is the first thing, we want robots. Why? We want more efficiency. All right, what's the ROI? Well, if I invest X amount of dollars in this robot, I get Y return. They always gloss over change management, risk, and all that. And I think that's the part that's really hard. And I think that's the part that a lot of, I think, projects will fail because of that, because they don't take that into account. The ROI and all that, they'll run the numbers. But it's also they put a robot in and people are like, no, I'm like, or I'm using it, or I'm moving the constraint somewhere else and it's creating issues.
Or my favorite one is they put it in the AMR that's supposed to be a optimized, the robot to the person for picking, and instead they've turned it into a follow me robot, or the person follows the robot around the warehouse, right? And you've lost your ROI completely because you're using the product completely wrong.
Yeah. And I think that's the
That never happens, does it?
Never. Or you build an ASRS and it just sits there and it's just a tombstone. And you're like, oh yeah, it's there. Look how cool it is. Like, why is that working? Well, yeah. So I think that's the thing that I think what I would tell people is that you have to, and I think this is where, folks like you guys who have experience and who can help these customers look at the hard questions and not just say, I just want a robot because it's cool, but understand what's the end case, what's the risk, what's the impact on your business and your risk and your people. And I think those are the things that, because I think if you go to the robotic vendors, of course we could solve that.
Right.
What do you need? I got it all, right?
Right.
There you go. I think you go to some of the integrators, all they see is, oh, we're going to put in a $3 million system. Yeah, we can do that. I don't care that I just chopped up your warehouse into a way it looks, it's bastardized, but I made my money. Yeah. I think it's really, and I don't think this is the part I think the market is missing. There's, who do you go talk to, right? Integrators, no. Robotic vendors, no.
Supply chain consultants generally.
Yeah, but even they, I would say you go to a Deloitte or a McKinsey or KPMG, I think they're not there yet. They don't really know the sort of down and dirty in the warehouse. So I think there's a gap there. I think there's a massive gap of who these customers should go talk to. I think some of the tier 2 consultants are starting to fill that, but I think there's a great opportunity for people like yourselves who are trusted to say, all right, just give me the inside baseball. Like, what does this look like? Like, what do I need to think about? Because I've told some of my customers this, hey, there's like 700 OEMs out there. There's a solution for your use case. Right. Multiple solutions for your use case. That doesn't mean it's the right use case or it's the right robot, right? That's where I think in the market for these customers, they need to be able to have that conversation. And I think it still is lacking.
Yeah, and to your point, I think companies like Breckham Group, companies like John Sandigate's company, right? They're great resources of people who have been operators, they know the technology, they can really help customers figure out this journey, right? And I think understanding the journey you're on is the important thing from an end user and not thinking pie in the sky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we're thinking future state now, right? So future, 2 years from now, what still exists, what's gone?
Pete and I are retired.
We're gone.
Don't leave me here.
We're out of here. No, I got college payments to make. I'm not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, so what's overhyped today that'll still be around? What's going to be gone?
I don't know about what's going to be gone. I mean, humanoids will continue to be overhyped for sure because they're not going to be ready yet. And the hype is growing because more and more companies are getting into it. We just saw a company in Boston area just open up. What the heck was the name? It's conquered with
and it's
Oh yeah, Walden Robotics.
Walden Robotics. That's it. Yeah, it's like
now we're reading the article.
yeah,
Interesting
yeah.
stuff.
So I think you'll see that continue to be hype. I think what we're going to see in the next year that's going to become real is the stuff like Jacoby's doing and what Vecta's doing, where it's like, hey, you've solved two hard problems that nobody has solved before in unsequenced mixed case palletizing and entry-level automation for aisle case picking. Like, those didn't exist a year ago, right? And now people are starting to hear about it, and Modex started to kind of take off for both of them. It's going to be real next year, and it's going to be, starting to scale. And I think that's going to be interesting. And I'm biased, but I like cool new technology. Hence, I was in humanoids, found out it didn't work, and left.
Whoa, okay. I know, but solving
Shots
hard-
fired.
I know.
Spice it up a little bit.
What do you think, Guy?
I'm going to say, I'm going to agree. It's overhyped on humanoids. I think what we're going to see in 2 years, one thing we didn't touch upon, I think, is more drones.
Oh, interesting.
I think more drones as they expand their battery life and usage, right? I think you see more drones in the warehouse for like cycle counting, security, and things like that. I think we're going to see more drones outside the warehouse. Last mile delivery. We joked about this before. I think drones for returns, right? I think, I look to our friends in Seattle, like Amazon is going to have to start thinking about that. I think it's interesting. Years ago, I said kind of flippantly or tongue in cheek, like, hey, pretty soon, like in New York City or in Boston, right? If you go rent an apartment or buy a condo, one of the things they're going to tell you is, hey, we've got a drone airport on the roof. So if you've got orders, the drone will bring it to the drone airport, drop it off, and then we'll go get it for you and bring it. And if you want returns, you bring it up there. The other thing I think we'll see more of in the next few years, and I think we're starting to see it now, is software to do the orchestration on all this MHE.
Yeah.
Right. And I know companies like Geek Plus and Locus they're trying to have all the MHE, right? They're going to do goods to person, ASRS, AMR. But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be a one-stop shop for robotics. It's still going to be, hey, I want Vecta to do case pick. I'm going to have an ASRS over here. I'm going to have a robust AI over here. Who's going to orchestrate all that? And throw in the labor, right? Because we still have labor involved. So now we're going to have some type of, dare I say, control tower or some concept that's going to orchestrate all of this moving parts within the warehouse. I think it is going to use some AI to be smart about it and to learn. So I think we're going to see more and more of that. I think, when I was at Six River, we were just starting. It's like, we just put Six River robots, just put Chuck in the warehouse. Now all of a sudden it's like, well, wait, Chuck's in the warehouse, but there's a right-hand robotic system over here that's going to do, some picking. So how do we orchestrate it? Oh, and by the way, there's an old conveyor over here. We have to pull stuff off of that. So to me, I think in the next few years, we're going to see more and more of software that's going to be there to help orchestrate all of this stuff.
Different than a WMS or a WCS kind of layer.
I think a WMS is going to stay as a system of record. WCS is going to be the control layer. So now let's say it's a WES, which I think is also kind of like physical AI.
Yeah.
As 5 people, they're going to have 7 different WESs. But I think some version of what we think a WES is going to become more prevalent. Is it going to come from WMS vendors? Sure. But it's also come, I think, from third parties. And I think that's where we're going to see, because I think you and I have seen this, right? When I started at Six River to compare to today, AMRs now are kind of ubiquitous.
Yeah, they're scaling.
They're scaling.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
The coolness or the secret sauce now is like, it's an AMR.
Yeah.
Do you want to follow my robot or swarm, whatever? Other than that, it's
do you want material handling? Do you want picking? What do you want?
It's an AMR, it's an AMR.
Right.
Now, it's still a lot of runway for that. But now the question is, all right, I have an AMR and I have a VLM. How do I make sure they work together? Because I have an order coming in, I have 5 items in the VLM and 6 that the AMR is going to pick. I kind of want it all to come together at the same time. The truck's leaving at 3.
Right.
So I think that's what we're going to start seeing more of in the next couple of years, and drones.
Okay.
The drone thing I'd push back a little on, because I look at it and go, okay, drones were they were not the hype of humanoids, right? But they were hypey in the last couple of years, and they seem to kind of disappear on us all of a sudden.
I agree.
It's like, are they really going to be used in a warehouse? Is that a good setting? Or is it outside doing other things? I'm not sure yet.
I think it's both. I think you're absolutely right. They were so hypey, and then they got overhyped by AI and then humanoids. I think the physical problem with the drones in the warehouse in the past, which we rarely talked about, is their battery life. right? Oh, I could get a drone to go cycle count. Oh, by the way, it's only got 15 minutes of battery life. Oh, I've got a 1 million square foot warehouse. It can barely touch part of it before it has to come back and
I
charge.
didn't realize it was that bad.
It's not better, but it was, I remember talking to some and they're like, oh, we can set it out and it could be on station for like 5 minutes. I'm like, so you're going to count anything. I think the other part too with the drones is, and this maybe tied into this, is sort of camera technology, where it's getting better. Whereas when I first started seeing drones and you really start asking the question, they're like, yeah, we kind of guesstimate. So we cycle count because we look at a pallet and we see that it's full, so we just assume it's full, right? Or we see a couple of things missing, so we guesstimate, but we can't really count how many items are, so I think combine the technology of the drone being able to stay on station longer with better camera technology, and I think we're going to start seeing it pick back up. And I think it's going to be quiet, right? Because it's not as, like you said,
It's not as sexy.
it was overhyped.
Yeah.
And I think people were like, ran all over it, and they're like, oh, it's not that good. Now it's going to come back. And I do think like last mile delivery, like Walmart's starting to get more and more into drone delivery, obviously Amazon. But I think we're going to start seeing more of that as, us in the consumer world being like, oh, we're in Boston Commons, I need some sunscreen. You have my phone address. Drone shows up.
Drop.
Right now, it's
Drops.
a DoorDash to the Boston Common with the
DoorDash,
sunscreen. Yeah, I mean,
There you go. So
Yeah.
now, 2 or 3 years, we're gonna have, it'd be like that. Remember that commercial from Audi where it was like all the little drones were following it around? Like this is when it was overhyped.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna start going back to that.
Okay, we'll place a bet. You on drones, me on humanoids.
It's on.
that sounds
Shots
good.
fired.
I need to get a drone company on this podcast too. Now that I'm thinking about it, but I mean, to close, I want to do a quick rapid fire. This is called shots fired, right?
Shots fired.
Shots
you know?
fired.
So, all right, first one, AGV or AMR?
AMR.
AMR, sorry. We're both on the same page.
Wow, that's
The whole guided
Yeah,
vehicle,
the whole,
it's
putting
like
QR
gone.
codes down,
No.
Like no, really?
No.
We're
All
smarter.
right,
Sorry.
all right.
We're smarter than that.
This one may be different. Humanoid on a real production floor in 5 years, yes or no?
Yes. Yes.
Well, humanoid as we see him today, or humanoid bastardized.
Here's the thing. So we'll dig into that a little bit, right? Picture Star Wars,
Yeah.
right? How many humanoids do you see in Star Wars? Tons of them, right? There's servers in the bar area.
Yep.
There's C-3PO, who's your butler.
Yep.
You see industrial ones, building stuff. I was going to say another word. Right, so I think we're going to see that, and we're seeing it now. You got wheel-based, you got leg-based, you got hand grippers, you got change the end effectors. We're already seeing it, right?
Okay.
I think the reality is, though, the number one company in that space is Boston Dynamics. They've been doing it longer than anybody else, right? Their robot is going into production in a proof of concept kind of right now.
Yeah.
In 3 years, it's going to be humming down there. They're investing tons into things. I think they win the race, by the way, for my 2 cents. Should have been my bold prediction earlier. Who wins the humanoid race? Boston Dynamics, Atlas. Atlas is the most amazing humanoid out there today. It's performative. It can lift incredible weights that none of these other ones can do. It's nimble, and I love that it changes its own battery. Going back to batteries,
That's a big deal.
the battery lives in these things are like 2 to 4 hours, depending on what they're doing. Everybody else, a person has to touch it, or it has to back up to a charger and charge itself, which means you need 2 robots to do the job, not 1, right? So
Because your FTE cost.
yeah, they go back to the CFO. But when Atlas pulled his battery out, put it down, put a new one in, I was like, dang, that's cool.
Yeah,
All right, but let me counter your Star Wars example. How many droids do we see on wheels, zipping around?
Oh yeah, that's true.
R2D2 does not. It looks like a trash can. He looks like a trash can.
Did he really do much though? He saved people. I get that.
People from being crushed in the compactor.
But he couldn't pick anything up.
Yeah, but he's the one who could.
But
break
we're
the
in
compactor
warehouses.
systems.
We need manipulators.
Well, yeah, but R2D2 can like run all the machines and all. He can be in the WCS. So I would.
Well, there you go.
I would argue. Okay, but but I think the humanoids. Everything you just said. Is it going to be in a wheelbase? Is it going to do that? I think that yes. So we're going to take the humanoid, but we're going to decouple it to different ways.
Yeah.
So is it really a humanoid, or is it now just humanoid aspects that are optimized for a specific job?
That.
Okay. Last one, just quick rapid fire. What is the robotic solution or automation that everybody's going to be talking about in 2027?
I'm gonna hate to do this for you, but
Go for it.
I think I think what Vecna's doing, I think is pretty cool. I agree with Pete was saying earlier. I think the biggest issue we've always had is case pick and leveraging it. You know, when I was at Six River, it was each just pick using the follow me
Yep.
solution.
Yep.
I think now if we could do case pick, I would even say, and this is a push to Vecna, if you can also have it do case pick at multiple levels, that's a game changer, right? Because I have so many customers I talk to who
That's hard.
I know it's hard.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
putting
yeah.
it out there. Like,
Yeah,
I think if that's at least picking at the first level is great, but now if you can take it to the next level, I think that's going to be a true game changer. Because to me, that, to use permanently repeat, least disruptive in an existing warehouse, addressing a massive problem, which is case pick, but not changing aisles or formats or putting stuff in an ASRS, right? Now you're just putting these robots in there, one human attached to it or in a zone, and you're picking at a case level. I think that could be really interesting because I think it's something that we just haven't seen done properly.
Right.
The AMRs doing each pick, as we said, I think it's ubiquitous. We've got plenty of options. We see it all over the place. Now the case pick is the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah, and quickly, Pete, because I'm getting the wrap it up from Katie over there. So what are we going to see in 2027?
To me, it goes back to the mixed case palletizing. For years, it's always been this sequence was the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Super impactful from a cost perspective. Very few companies did it, right? You sell one or two to a company, that's all you ever do. But everybody in the industry has been looking to solve unsequenced mixed case palletizing. The largest integrators on the planet are trying to solve it right now. You know, the Dymatics, the Corbers of the world, you know, Fortinas of the world, Honeywell Intelligrated. And now with Jacoby software being here to do that, I think that we're going to see scale like crazy next year, particularly because the integrators are looking at this saying, it's a game changer for my design.
Yes.
I can lower the cost and lower the impact on infrastructure, so the ROIs are better. So I think that's where we see some impact. Now, I'm biased, of course, but I do think that is a huge game changer in the industry.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to go for lunch at 21st Amendment, which is another Boston thing, right? So thank you, Pete. Thank you, Guy, for coming to the podcast today. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Mandy Dwight, Pete Allen, Guy Courtin. Hope you enjoyed Shots Fired.
Shots fired.
Shots fired.